Live. We're live. Can you hear me, Wendy?
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Waking Up Spiritually podcast. We're so glad to welcome you here. I'm Wendy Rose Williams, and my co-host Greg Kirk is with me. And you can join us live in the Facebook group, Waking Up Spiritually. We also do record the program, the podcast, and it's on wakingupspiritually.com, as well as on our YouTube by the same channel. And we're in the process of uploading to all the podcast apps. So welcome. I am a past life adventure guide. I help people release energy that doesn't serve you anymore. Things like pain, anxiety, depression, and also free up that stuck creativity so that you can really enjoy your life and feel healthy and feel like you're living a life filled with purpose. So I'll turn it over to Greg to introduce himself as well as today's topic.
Right. Hello, everyone. I'm Greg Kirk. You can find me at gregkirk.com, spelled GREGGKIRK.com. I am a light worker, energy healer. I help patients with chronic illnesses, but also with stuck energetic blockages and attachments and implants and all those kind of things. So if this sounds like something you need help with, please come check me out at gregkirk.com. And I also run these weekly online group healing circles every Sunday. And you can find out about those on the events link on my website at gregkirk.com. So those are only $20 to join, and they are a great way of, if you've never had energy healing done before, it's a good way to dip your toe in the water. If you have had energy healing done as well, it's a great place to come explore. We are having all kinds of really interesting experiences in this group setting. So it's a place where you can get personal healing, but also group healing in a group dynamic. So sometimes miraculous things happen in this group, and that segues into our topic today, experiencing magic and miracles, part 3. Wendy and I have had so many miracles happen in our lives that it barely fit into 3 episodes. We could probably do 4, but that's our topic today, and we will continue here with a PowerPoint deck that I will be sharing in just a second.
And we realize some of you are just listening while driving, while doing whatever else, but you are invited that there is also a PowerPoint that you can see via the recording. So just an option, whatever way you like to consume your podcasts.
Right.
To give you the different options.
Right. So you can come check out the details of each broadcast at wakingupspiritually.com, clicking on the broadcast link. We have a YouTube account as well. So just go to youtube.com and do a search for Waking Up Spiritually, and you'll find our channel. And as Wendy said, we've got, I don't know how many podcasts loaded at this point, but it's more than half a dozen, maybe 7 or 8. And they're starting to show up and getting good traffic lately. So there's many ways to connect with us. And of course, on our website is one way that you can reach out to us if you have a topic idea. So just click on the contact link there. So anyway, Wendy, without further ado, would you like to kick off our topic today?
So as Greg said, let's continue with this fantastic topic of miracles and magic. And I think this topic is so important because we can have some amazing things happen to us in life. And then our left brain, our ego, can come in and just pick it apart and just say, was that real? Is this just my imagination? So just give yourself permission to have those amazing experiences and just ask your higher self and guides, send me more, show me more, and just let it continue.
Exactly.
So our agenda for today is I'll be talking about a faithful friend returning. And Greg is going to recap his first psychic experience. And then I'll be sharing a galactic crash landing, so an off-planet type experience. And Greg is going to discuss, recap a remote releasement by phone. And then I'll be talking about some past life synchronicities and Greg will be talking about the first self-removal experience. So. All right. So my faithful friend, those who have joined us before may guess who that is. It's Midnight, my cat, and who's been here in many of these podcasts. And I adopted him back in 2001 when he was 6 weeks old, and he was so tiny he fit into my former husband's palm of his hand. He was able to put his hand out and hold that little tiny kitten. And Midnight crossed the Rainbow Bridge last week, so on May 11th, 21. And what's amazing, and why I'm saying this is a faithful friend who returned, I recognized him, and so many different healers and psychics and other people confirmed it and said, oh my gosh, this cat is just such an incredibly faithful partner, energy partner, healing partner with you. He's been with you many times. And I did recognize Midnight as having been my previous black cat Flipper, who was a semi-feral stray that John, my former husband, and I first took in when we were first engaged and living together. And this just hungry, beat up looking cat was showing up on our back doorstep. So we took him in. And also my childhood cat, Samantha, that I had adopted when I was in 4th grade and was given that big, permission from the parents. Yeehaw, you can go ahead and get a cat. So I still remember the joy of that day and getting to go down to the Humane Society. And I also believe that this same soul was my parents' boxer, Max, so a dog. So yes, here's a lot of concepts. Animals can return to us multiple times, and we did do an animal episode specific to that, as well as they can be in different life forms too. But the miracle of how we found Midnight this lifetime was just really neat. We had lost, Flipper had passed on from cancer, and then we'd had a guinea pig because my girls were really young and I just wasn't feeling up for another cat or dog that quickly, just very busy household. But when we were ready to adopt a cat, we were going through the discussion of, okay, are we going to get a cat? Are we going to get a kitten? Where are we going to go? So we decided we wanted to adopt from a local place called the Cat Clinic, which was very close to our home. And it was a combination of vet and little mini rescue, as well as just products being sold. So cat food, cat collars, that type of thing. So we went in there, picture my husband and I, our 2 daughters who were 3 and 5 at the time back in 2001. And they're of course just so excited to be picking out and be adopting a cat or a kitten. And we're looking at all the different cats. Some of them are loose, some of them are in cages. We're looking at the different ones and just working to make our decision as a family. When out of nowhere, running out of the back room, so completely off stage, we could not see this kitten anywhere in the location, in the cat clinic, comes this little tiny ball of fur, and he jumps up onto the office chair, and he jumps up onto the desk. And it was one of those high desks, reception desks, where there's like, a barrier between you and the person, and it kind of gives them workspace to like post things that you can't see, and just gives them room for their desk to not have to be perfectly tidy. And he jumped on me, and I'm 5'2", and vaulting off the top of this high desk, he literally hit me in the chest. And I just barely caught this tiny little kitten, this little black ball of fur. And he had this tiny, little white string around his neck. And I said, gosh, what's that? And they said, we're training him for a collar. I'm like, okay, I've never heard of that before. But I just was holding him. And of course, the girls just came right over, and my husband came right over. And the gal in the cat clinic just looked at us and said, I see your cat has chosen you. I see your cat found you. Nice. And I was like, oh yes, this is the one. So we filled in the paperwork, we adopted him, and we took him home. But just think about the magic in that. Think about the miracle in that, of all the places that we could have gone to have adopted a cat, and to choose, to just find each other like that. And then for me over time to recognize him, because he clearly recognized me. So it just was really, really cool. I also believe that we've shared past lives in colonial America. My first novel, my second book, The Flow One Plymouth Plantation, talks about Midnight, and we actually ended up having past life regression therapy together, which I never expected, because a traveling hypnotherapist came to my home, and he was an important part of that lifetime. He was there the day that I had died and passed on, and it had given him just an issue where he was always trying to charge out the front door. He was always trying to run out and escape through our front door, which frankly made me nervous, because the street was too busy at the neighborhood we were living in, and I just didn't want someone to hurt the cat without realizing this cat's like barreling out the front door. So that related to that past life in America. And once we had that past life regression therapy together, Midnight never did it again. It was amazing. And I had worked with the vet, I'd worked with an animal behaviorist, I had worked with so many different people saying, what's this behavior about? How can I, resolve this problem? Because it definitely correlated back to that life in colonial America. And his preferred form, Midnight would much rather be a large guard dog or a black panther or jaguar, which clearly I wasn't going to adopt the latter. And we just weren't up for a dog when it was time to move forward with a new animal. So he came in and he took one for the team, but he always acted like a guard dog. He always acted like an animal that was like much bigger, and he was incredibly protective of me. And that's what just came coming through in these different sessions and my own meditations too, was that that's his primary role. And I'm just so grateful for it. And of course, the wonderful companionship too. And I chose this picture because, hey, Midnight put himself there. I mean, I literally was just getting out my old anatomy chart. I was getting ready for a client session, and I just had a crystal or two out, and look where the cat puts himself. He puts himself right on top of that. So is this a healing cat or what? So he seldom missed a session. He seldom missed a broadcast, whether the session was for me or when I was doing or giving. He just was so drawn to that energy and wanted to help. He also was, and this one may expand your belief system a bit, or maybe a little bit too out there, and I get it. I believe he was my wagon driver. He was a man in the 1800s, and I was a Civil War widow named Dolly Sumner Lunt Burge, widowed multiple times, as was common in the 1800s. And he drove my wagon. He kept me safe. And interestingly, I was able to find the diary I wrote in that lifetime, which was really amazing. And that diary talked about my wagon driver, Mid. MID was his name. And my mother, especially, she often called Midnight Mid. And I thought, goodness, how interesting is that? Even the same name, black man, black cat. Just choose your belief system. Uh, Midnight, he was such a healthy cat. He lived to almost 20 years. He would have been 20 years old on June 1st. And I can hear him right now. He's like, give me credit. Say I was a 20-year-old cat. I was only a couple weeks short when it was time for him to go home. And I felt very fortunate. My oldest daughter is in veterinary school, and she visited me in May. She came out for Mother's Day. She just had wrapped up school for the year, and she could really see the difference because she'd last seen him at Christmas. And she said, Mom, have you considered doing an end of life, a quality of life assessment with your vet? And I just wasn't familiar with that concept. I didn't realize that was an option now. So we went and took him together, knowing that might be the day that he would be euthanized, if that's what was, best for him. Because I certainly wasn't going to keep him around when there just wasn't quality of life anymore. But she could really see the difference of how he'd gone downhill from December to May. And I was certainly seeing it too, because he couldn't jump up in the bed to go to bed with me anymore. And he didn't want me to pick him up. I could just see he was in a lot of physical pain. And when we were there with the vet deciding, and again, I give my daughter credit because she said, Mom, let's just bring his favorite blanket from home. And I was thinking, why? That's not going to fit in his carrier. But I just said, okay, whatever. And she brought it. And what she did was she laid it out on the exam table. And that was what he was euthanized on. And as we were discussing it with the vet, and she said, we could try pain relievers, but I really don't think you're gaining more than a few days or possibly weeks. I don't have a crystal ball. But as we were discussing it, I just said, Midnight, I love you. What do you want to do? And he just looked at me and he laid down. He just laid down and curled up, on the exam table. So we knew, and we let him go, just with a lot of love and compassion. He has been talking about, ever since I started doing dog rescue, he's been saying, oh, I want to come back as a dog. I want to be a dog again, and I'd love to come back. So we even talked about, well, what kind of breed would you like to be? And, will I find you through the Doggone Seattle Rescue? And he said, absolutely. And he said, Wendy, go ahead and foster some dogs. They won't be me, but it's a way for you to give back. And I want you to get kind of trained up because you haven't had a dog as an adult. And I don't, I want you to be, good with it by the time I come back to you. So it's like, okay, let's get me trained up. So boxer, black lab, pit mix, something in there. He said, yeah, I'd really like to do that. And I said, great. I would love that type of a dog. And there's plenty of them through that dog rescue. So that's our plan. So I'll keep you posted. But again, my hat is off to my faithful friend for many, many lives together, his multiple lives with me in this lifetime and also our previous lives together.
Oh, what a great tribute. We're going to miss Midnight showing up for cameos here,
Yes.
But he's in a good place and he's coming back. So
he's absolutely with us. I heard him the very night that he passed on, because you do kind of think, okay, have they crossed the Rainbow Bridge? How are they doing? Are they okay? Literally that night I was falling asleep. I was like 99% asleep. And I heard this deep male voice say, Wendy. And I mean, it really startled me because I was alone. And I was like, what, who, what is that? And he said, this is Midnight. I was like, whoa, you're like, what's the Earl Jones? What's the actor with that?
James
really?
Earl Jones.
Yes. I was like, ooh, you're like channeling your James Earl Jones there. And he said, I just want you to know I crossed the Rainbow Bridge and I'm happy as can be. And he's come in a couple times since then. And just, he'll say hi. He'll tell me how great he feels. He'll tell me he's helping another animal cross the Rainbow Bridge, or he'll tell me he's doing healing for another animal. So he's really happy and active.
Awesome. Okay. Here we go. So my stories today, and thank you again, Wendy. That's again great tribute. Dedicate this broadcast to Midnight.
Yes.
Midnight's memory. All of my experiences that I'm sharing today are my first experiences with miracles and magic. The ones that I shared last time all had to do with animals, and the ones before that were just kind of the most dramatic ones, I would say. But these were the first sets of experiences I had, including this one. So this happened, I'm trying to remember the year. It was in the early 90s. I had not had any experience with anything weird or supernatural or paranormal up to this point. And I was in a band at the time, and a friend of mine was managing the band, and and we had had a little bit of a falling out. She had moved to, I met her in Manhattan, and then she moved to the Seattle area. Coincidentally enough, Wendy, that's where you're from.
Right.
So she was out there. And I was supposed to come out and start a new band with her and her husband, and we were going to work some things out. But we had a falling out, and she and I were, well, I guess if there's one thing that I did have this feeling for when I met her, she said the same thing, that we definitely had past lives. She said, I know you. There was this just strange familiarity about the first moment I saw her. Like literally within minutes of me meeting her, she started holding my hand. So it was just, and we always had a platonic relationship, but she was like a sister to me, So I was at least somewhat aware of that, or at least open to the concept of maybe we had a past life. Okay. So when there was this kind of interruption of the relationship, we both felt it. So one night I fell asleep on the couch, and I remember this vividly. It was strange because I was in the middle of a dream, literally in the middle of the dream. And I used to describe it as like call waiting. So I was in this dream, and all of a sudden it stopped and this other vision came in to the dream. And it was literally like call waiting that we used to have on the old phones, where I was already on a call, but another call came in, and it was a vision of my friend. And she was upset. She had her hair down. She was crying, and she was just basically saying, Greg, please call me. Please call me, Greg. Please call me. So I just remembered that. And the strange thing was that I even remembered it because I was in the middle of dreaming. So how often do you remember details like that? So anyway, I woke up the next morning, and I remembered that. And I thought, I should probably give her a call. Let's stop the nonsense of being, not talking to each other. And, but I didn't do it right away. So I kept forgetting, and I kept remembering. And finally, I was on the East Coast and she was on the West Coast. I guess it was the right timing. I finally just had this feeling of like, I got to give her a call. So I called her up, and she was just so happy to hear from me. And, we picked kind of right up where we left off. And I said, listen, I had a weird dream last night that you were in. It was kind of like a call waiting dream. And I said, you were like, crying and telling me to call you. She said, I did that last night. I said, wait a minute.
Wow.
I said, I think I can tell you what you were wearing. I don't know why those words just came out of my mouth. And I said, the weird thing is you were wearing glasses, and I've never seen you in my life wear glasses. She said, yes, that's because I only wear them at night. I was wearing glasses. And I said, and you were wearing this black sundress that looked like it had flowers on it. She said, no, those are actually shooting stars swirling around. She said, yes, you saw 100%. That's the way I looked. That's what I was doing. And, I've never had anything like that happen since in a dream like that. But of course, I've had during healing sessions, I've had those kinds of moments. But that was the first time in my life that I ever had anything like that, just like barge into to my consciousness of, hey, your friend Kat's online too, trying to connect. So anyway.
That's really incredible. And how fantastic, Greg, because when we're having our first experience or a really out there experience, or one that's just hard to believe or accept, like I said, that left brain can kick in a little too hard. That ego can be questioning. How fantastic to get the validation from someone else. Yeah. Yes, we need to do our own work. We need to do our own truth and not be constantly looking for outside validation. But isn't it neat when you do have the experience and someone else validates it? I mean, that's kind of like the Olympic gold medal for me.
I agree. And that makes it more, quote unquote, real when that kind of stuff happens, the validation. And what makes it even better is when you're not looking for it. It just happens. I don't know what made me say, I think I could tell you what you were wearing, because I almost didn't say it because it was kind of a little out there for me, back then. Now it's daily stuff.
Especially too, that you said, I saw you wearing glasses, and you didn't know that she wore glasses late at night because you'd never seen her in glasses.
Exactly.
So how great that you said that too.
Right. And I love it how it was just not, it wasn't 100% accurate in that, I saw you wearing this black sundress with flowers on it. She's like, well, corrected me. Well, they're actually shooting stars, but yes, same idea. So I saw something and she, helped validate it, but, corrected it. So that's even better when that kind of stuff, those kind of details happen, 100% better. So if anything, the effect of that experience let me know that this was a possibility, for me, later on in life or whenever, however I would want to use it. I didn't do anything with it for years, but it was just something that I knew that was a possibility. It just felt like something that happened to me, versus, that I brought on. But, later on, I guess I would develop the ability to kind of control this somewhat, So anyway, the very, very cool experience. So.
Absolutely. Okay, my turn. So I had a dramatic experience where it was a really hot August night. So I had the ceiling fan on, which I don't normally do. And I woke up in the middle of the night because I felt like I was being crushed. And I knew it wasn't a heart attack, but it's like the best thing I can correlate to what that might feel like. Cause I could not breathe. And I just sensed this huge, really heavy, like 600-pound energetic being had crash landed on my chest. But I didn't have time to like sort that out. I'm thinking, okay, Wendy, that's crazy. What's going on here? I just went straight to God. I didn't ask for my higher self to help. I just went straight to God and said, hello, cannot breathe. Big problem here. Please lift this up off my chest, whatever this is, because I sensed this powerful, benevolent being from a higher vibration. And I sensed it was male. I sensed he wanted to assist me. But think of the precision. I know if you can imagine beings of light coming in from other realms, other dimensions, other planets. Imagine the precision that's needed to connect with us at where we are. So, well, he just kind of misjudged the landing a tiny bit. Exactly. Right. Just came down like 6 inches too far. And Midnight was curled up next to me. And once I could breathe again, because God did immediately respond, he's like, okay, let's lift this up. Let's lift this up. And I could like, oh, thank you. I can breathe again. And I was just tuning into what is this? And I glanced over at Midnight. Midnight was curled up so tightly. And I knew he was petrified. And he was pretending to be asleep. I've never seen him do that before because he was like, whoa, that is like too much. Nope, this is not happening. This is not happening. I'm going to pretend I'm asleep. But when I looked up, I couldn't see the galactic being. I could sense it there. I could feel it. But I was looking at that ceiling fan and I was like, oh my goodness, it's the bottom of a ship. And I just was sensing, an ET type of ship. So it's like, wow, this is really out there. So I tried my best to understand it, make some sense of the experience. This was on a Tuesday. And what I did was I just, thanked him, said, don't know who you are. This just kind of did me in. This was like a little too much. I just thank you for being here and trying to help me. I just need to sort this out tomorrow because I got so, thrown off by the crash landing and it being so frightening because not being able to breathe is not a good feeling. Feeling so crushed like that. So, I could just feel him pull up and it's kind of like they were like waving. And at that point I could feel like multiple parties, beings of light. So the next day I called my spiritual teacher to help me interpret the experience. I didn't say a lot to her because I wanted to, when you're working with someone that has the ability to be an evidential psychic medium, don't tell them too much because give them room to connect, give them room to validate, give them room to do their work. But as I as I had thought about it, and I'd written some notes for myself before I called her, um, as I was meditating and trying to understand it, I was hearing Ashtar command, and I wasn't quite sure what that was. So I told her kind of, bare minimum facts. And she immediately, without me saying Ashtar command, she said, "Oh my gosh, Ashtar came to you last night and it looks like he crunched you a little bit. Sorry about that." He wants to apologize again and says, how hard this is to do, to come in from the other vibrations and higher dimensions and come in from off planet like that. I see the Ashtar Command as being the galactic peacekeepers, helping humanity. Um, well, let me stop myself for a moment. I see them as the galactic peacekeepers, and what I feel my agreement with them is to help humanity raise its vibration to 5D and higher. So that's what he was coming in to offer to do, because I was trying to write about it. I was trying to understand my experiences in that area. There's many, many ways to raise our vibration. Many people do it in a wonderful way where they're not especially conscious of it, but they're just, doing their best work, trying to be the best person they can. I had a much more conscious experience of it, which I can delineate literally 1 through 5. So here it is. I see the steps. This is one path. There's many, many paths to raise our vibration. Just think of it as a level of consciousness. And I see it as aligning fully with our higher self, getting really comfortable with our own higher self, that distilled wisdom of our soul, and getting our higher self really in our bodies so we can be on the planet. We can. We can manifest, we can be healthy, we can just, have those harmonious relationships, etc. But it's really being our higher self. Also, to raise our vibration, my belief is we need to transmute any remaining karma. Not everyone has karma, but many people have in the past, and just working to learn those lessons, working to do better, working to balance up that energy. Also, opening our Kundalini. Kundalini is very misunderstood. I see it as life force. So it's not something to fear or to try and run away from. We all have Kundalini, and at the right time, we can prepare our body to open it fully, safe and sane. What I mean by that is many people benefit from doing Kundalini yoga, Kundalini meditations, that type of thing, to just be able to prepare the body, prepare the mind, because we are body, mind, and spirit. So, and then as you're going through those steps, and it's not directly 1 through 5. We kind of go like back and forth, and in some ways it's like the stages of grief. It's not this direct path. We do go back and have deeper levels to it. But when you've done your best to align with your higher self, transmute your karma, if any remains, and you're more getting on that dharmic path, and you've opened your kundalini, you receive this amazing sound activation, or activations, plural, from source. I did via 2 Beatles songs. I was very surprised because it was like the most magnificent choir from heaven I have ever heard. I mean, it literally, I dropped to my knees because I was just crying so hard. And it was like, oh my goodness. And I could feel myself healing from the inside out via those 2 sound activations. One happened after I just got this energy surge on a Friday night, and I'd been writing almost all night. Which was very unusual for me. And I just turned around and said, "Oh my gosh, look at that. The sun's coming up. It's dawn." I just had a free weekend. The girls were with their dad, and I just felt like this just amazing love, because it's a heart opening when you're raising your vibration. It's this huge heart opening, and I just loved everything and everyone, and just felt such gratitude. And that's when that song came in, and I literally fell to my knees. And then after having that experience, I dragged myself off to bed and slept for a few hours. And then a few months later, in the shower one day, I had that second sound activation. So it's that heart healing. healing for your body, and you've then got an ascended master coming in for daily support once you've raised your vibration. So this is if you go through that very conscious, conscious experience. Many other ways to do it. Like I said, I'm not trying to be prescriptive. It's not, here's the one way. I'm sure there's as many ways as there are people to raise our vibration, but that's what happened when when Ashtar crash landed on me.
Amazing. Love all that information. So cool. Thank you, Wendy. So my first remote releasement experience happened when I was in the middle of a Lyme disease healing crisis. And I may have referred to this session in past episodes, but today I'll get into more of the details. But chain events of, actually, I know I referred to this in the near-death experience episode that we did several weeks ago.
Okay.
So this was triggered by a near-death experience where I'd had my heart damaged by a PICC line insertion. And I was having these kind of heart attacks happen because my sinusoidal node had been jabbed. That's your internal pacemaker that's in your heart. So this node, this nerve center got jabbed, and I was having these just kind of spontaneous defibrillations happening. And on top of it, I was sick with Lyme disease. So I was just a wreck. And one night I prayed to be taken in the middle of having what I thought was a profound enough heart attack. I thought, well, maybe this one will take me out. Good. So I started praying to be taken. And then I had the remarkable experience of not dying and wondering, okay, well, because I was literally ready to go, prepared. Was mentally and emotionally prepared to leave, and I didn't. So it was kind of like, well, now what? And within 3 days, and a chain reaction happened. The first thing that happened was I was going to get a bicillin injection. I was driving my car, and a bicillin injection for Lyme disease patients tend to get it. It's about an 8-inch needle they drive into your butt muscle. They try not to hit a nerve, and because if they hit a nerve, then you get nerve damage, and you get problems. But even when they don't hit a nerve, the sensation is like getting caned. It feels like somebody takes a bamboo cane and whacks you in your butt, and it's hard to sit down for days later. And when the medicine goes in, it's kind of cold. It straightens your leg out. It's just an awful experience. And I was getting these done on a weekly basis to try to fight Lyme disease. And as I was driving to the appointment, I was listening to this radio station, and it was a couple of shock jocks, talking, and they had this psychic on. And I thought, what a strange combination. These guys were more or less doing fart jokes with this psychic on. And, he was getting a fair amount of hecklers calling him up saying, you're a fake. And the thing that I thought was extremely interesting was the guy whoever would call him up to heckle him, he would start telling, the people about their lives. And, oh, your mother's here, by the way, she passed over and she has a message for you. And it would just shut these people up. They'd start weeping, and it was fantastic. I'd never heard anything like it. But the thing that really made my antenna go up was a couple of people, he said, hey, I'm pushing healing energy to you over the phone. And the reactions that the people had were no way they could have been staged. These people were getting, freaked out. They're in a good way. They were having emotionally strong reactions. And I don't know what compelled me, but this was all I had to hear. The guy was in my area, in the region. I said, I'm going to call this guy. And it was expensive, $500 for half an hour just to talk to the guy on the phone. And I'd almost died and wanted to die 3 days earlier. So I'm like, I got nothing to lose, do I? So let me call this guy up. So it was, longer story, but the guy had scheduled a half an hour session so that if one session went over, it just ricocheted all throughout his schedule. So it was about an hour and a half after we had been scheduled when he finally called me. And I was upset. But he got on the phone with me and he went to work. And the first thing he said was, "You've got hundreds of attachments." And I just thought, what? I didn't know that was even possible. And he said, "I'm breaking a curse on you." And then he was talking to my guides while talking to me. So he was kind of giving me the lowdown or the running commentary of what was happening with me. So he said, "Yeah, I broke this curse. Also, this is destiny. Like I was meant to do this in this lifetime with you, to do this massive removal." He said, he's like, "I'm the only one who could have done it." He said, "I'm not saying that out of ego. This was like preordained." I thought, wow, okay. And as he was starting to tell me these things, I started to notice physically that I was changing. The depression that I'd had for a solid 2 or 3 years just evaporated like, a gas.
That's amazing.
My vision started changing. I noticed that my vision had been so dark and everything got lighter, and just I was feeling invigorated, by the end of the call. So that was amazing. And so the physical reactions were, undeniable for me. But then at the very end, he started saying things that would figure into my life later on. But at the time, I was just so taken by the physical reactions that I really didn't pay attention to them. So one of the things he said, I overheard him say on the phone was, "He's more special than you know." And I asked him, I said, "Who are you talking to?" He said, "I'm talking to your guides. I'm repeating what they're saying. They're telling me that you're more special than I know." I said, "Interesting." And then he said, "You're like family in heaven." That was his direct quote. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Angels are rejoicing right now for this healing." I said, "What?" He said, you're like family in heaven. You're connected with Jesus. There's all this stuff, the Holy Family, all that stuff. And wow, what? And he said, "You're going to be doing what I'm doing. You're going to do this healing. You're going to write a book, and you're going to fight the good fight." Those were like a direct quote from him. And I just thought, okay, let me put a pause on all that stuff. Let's talk about what's going on with me physically. And he, of course, he enjoyed hearing that, but it was life-changing. It was nothing short of life-changing. And he was correct. I started doing exactly what not exactly, but just understand that I got trained in Reiki back in 1997. So I didn't know you could just talk to somebody on the phone and precipitate a healing like that. And I didn't think that I could do it for years and years and years, but I do it in a different way. I don't do it as fast as him, but I learned something from that session for sure. And of course, writing the book, it was, again, something I didn't think about for years and years and years, almost 10 years. And then I did. And then now I'm working on a second book. So, God bless this healer. He came into my life. I mean, he was like a ship in the night. He came in, he did that. We did do another session that was not nearly as profound, but it was very apparent that was the reason he and I connected in this lifetime, was for that moment, because I've not felt compelled to, to work with him again as a healer. And when we tried to, it really wasn't that effective the second time. It's just how strange, these kinds of things can be. But yeah, so
But you just couldn't top that. That's just, it sounds like it was 30 minutes that changed your life.
Yeah, that's the perfect title for this. That should have been the title instead of this long rambling obtuse one I did. 30 minutes that changed my life. Yes. But anyway, so that's the story.
Well, that's wonderful. Gosh, I'm just going to be mulling that one over. Because yes, I mean, certainly it ties in with what you'd shared before, Greg, but it's just, the depth to it. That's fantastic. Okay. So confession, I can struggle with being stubborn, and I'm sure I just really, thankfully guides don't get irritated and don't give up on us. but I've really had some trouble with believing some of my past life identities, if they've been well known or historic or famous or that type of thing. I've really struggled to believe them. So what happened in this instance was I was watching TV with my youngest daughter, and she liked Doctor Who. I believe Doctor Who is the longest running TV series of all time, 50 plus years, just countless Doctor Who's. So I'm sitting watching, what can be more normal than this? But all of a sudden, it was like the TV split in two. And it was an episode about Shakespearean times where Doctor Who and one of his co-stars go back in time to Shakespearean times. And the episode's actually called The Shakespeare Code, if you want to watch it for fun. And all of a sudden I'm looking at this split screen, and I know I'm the only one that can see it. She's just watching the TV program, but I'm seeing me in Shakespearean times. And I'm like, oh my gosh, look at that. I mean, that's clear as day. And I'm not especially clairvoyant. I'm extremely clairaudient, clairsentient, claircognizant. But just to see it like that, and I started to see my past life. So I'm like, oh my goodness. And I really was struggling with it because I just did not want to believe that I had a past life as Anne Hathaway, as William Shakespeare's wife. So I'm fussing and fighting with it and thinking, okay, I just don't really know what to make of this experience. So I went and meditated right after we watched the program. I asked my guides to show me more information if it was truly my past life. So they showed me some more details because I thought, hey, Shakespeare, well-known writer. Maybe I'm just a fan. Hey, I've got 6 whole credits in Shakespearean literature from college. Maybe I'm just a fan, because he did have such a profound impact on the English language. But I asked my guides to show me more information, and it just had the meditation. They showed me more, but I was still in that doubting Thomas place. So I let it go. Went on with my day. So the very next day, I'm driving home from work. How many times do we do that? We're like pulling into the neighborhood, just like, yay, I'm almost home. But I'm a couple blocks short of home, and I'm driving along, and I hear loud and clear as can be from my guides, look. So I'm looking around really carefully to make sure there's no car, dog, person, kid in the road. I make sure I'm safely driving, because when you hear look like that, it really catches your attention. All I could see was the book box, the neighborhood little book box. It's got maybe 30, 40 books in it. I'd never looked in it before. I'd never done a book exchange with it, because the idea is just, put books in there that you're done with and you can take a book from it. It's meant to be a book exchange. But clearly, the look was referring to the book box. So I pulled over. There's nothing behind me, so I pulled over, kind of sharply, because I wasn't expecting to stop there. And I said to my guides, "Do you want me to look in the book box? Is that why I'm hearing look?" And they're like, "Yes, yes, yes." And I could feel so many of them around me. So I stood in front of it, and I just took a big breath and just cleared my energy. Before I opened the book box. And you can see, you can't see into it. It's just a plain wooden door on it. And so I made a request before I opened it. And I said, if I really was Anne Hathaway, if it's a true past life of mine, and if I know who was my husband as Will Shakespeare, show it to me now. Show it to me now. So I opened the book box, and a copy of Hamlet, written by William Shakespeare, falls out on my feet from that book box. I burst into tears, and I felt the sadness, just that incredible feeling of your child dying. And I had just no idea. I didn't know the history that Will Shakespeare and Anne Hathaway did have their only son did die. He was a twin, and he died when he was about 11 years old, probably, from one of the various plagues of that time. It was the 1500s. but just to have that happen and to have that reaction. And his name was Hamnet, with an N, not Hamlet, but Will Shakespeare changed up the story and wrote one of the most well-known plays as a tribute to his son. And I hadn't known any of that. So it really was quite the experience. And then in July of 2019, I flew from Seattle to London, and I went to the Globe Theatre, which was, Will Shakespeare was a part owner in it. It's where his plays were shown. And oh my gosh, I know it's a replica. I know it's built in a slightly different place, but the energy's there. You're on the river. The energy is just so there. So it really was a big deal. And I wrote more about that lifetime and that experience. It's chapter 5 in the Flow 1 Plymouth Plantation, because I really feel that Anne Hathaway lifetime that I didn't want to acknowledge or accept, I really feel it influenced the immediate next life when I was Anne Warren. Interestingly, so Anne Hathaway, William Shakespeare, 1500s, married. Next lifetime, I'm Anne Warren, and I think I'm meant to marry Captain William Pierce. We do not get married, and I just can't let it go. I become a ghost because I just can't let it go. Anne and William again. And I met that soul again. He was both Will Shakespeare. It's the same soul, was also Captain William Pierce. So I think it was some residual we meet, we get married energy left over on my part from the previous lifetime. So just was really, really an interesting experience, but all that out of the little bitty book box.
Wow.
And it really, again, you have every right to say to your guides, I'm trying to understand, I'm trying to be clear, I'm trying to do my work, understand the messages. If I'm on the right track, please show me more. I don't like to say, prove it to me. I think that's kind of, defensive. Who can really prove anything to us? But I like to say, show me more. I'm on the right track. But they certainly validated. And I do feel comfortable saying, yes, I had a past life as Anne Hathaway. I think there's been lots of other Anne Hathaways and lots of other Will Shakespeare, because I think these timelines repeat. And other people kind of had some different experiences. And that's why, part of the historical records can be different. Someone said there was a wonderful series called Will that was on television, and there was a quote in it about he was the most famous person that we don't know anything about, because the records are so muddied. So much question of what was his identity. Was it really someone else writing under his name, or who?
Francis Bacon, really? We've heard.
Yes, there's so many stories. And this story does correlate back to my first book also, Regression Healing 1, because the client in that book was William Pierce, and I believe he was William Shakespeare. And he didn't want to accept it or believe it. He's like, whoa, I admire him way too much. I wouldn't begin to feel I could have, played that big a role. But during a session, he's like, oh my gosh, I really was Will Shakespeare. So it was just really interesting. But yeah, so just a process of working with our guides is what I'm trying to say. And like I said, just say, thank you, show me more. And then you'll know if you're on the right track or not. Oh, and one final thing. And then, because it was a book exchange, when I got home, my guide said to me, okay, you've got that copy of Hamlet, keep it now. It's just this neat energy validation for you. And we want you to look on your bookshelf, and we want you to give a book from the man who was Shakespeare. You're supposed to put it in that book box because someone needs the book that he wrote. So I'm looking on my bookshelf going, the man that used to be Shakespeare. And then I slap myself on the forehead. I'm like, oh my goodness, my former boyfriend who was Will Shakespeare wrote a book, and I happen to have 2 copies of it. Nice. So I took that copy, and it's a travel book. It's a travel adventure book. I thought someone needs some information in this book. So I put it in the neighborhood book box.
That's so cool.
So.
Very cool. Okay. Well, this this is in the same timeline as the last experience I just described. It happened a few days or happened within the year. So after this remote releasement, well, actually it happened, I'm sorry. Not only did it happen within the year, it happened within a week or so. So where
Energy building.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, talk about, just pulling the lid off of something, everything happened at once. So I went, in fact, I wrote about this in my book, The Gratitude Curve. One day I wanted to die. 3 days later, I get this remote releasement. And then 3 days after that, I meet somebody to help me make sense of what I was going through. So one of the things that this healer had said to me at the end of the session was, okay, let's stay in touch. I want to help you. He said the guides were telling him you need help keeping the lights on. In other words, I'd been so overwhelmed by negative entities that I needed protection. I needed to know how to bring about protection for myself. I needed lessons, on how to training on to maintain the spiritual hygiene, how to start to control the energy or to go with it and understand more about it. So I thought he was going to do that. And that was like, that's how I began to understand that it was kind of a one and done situation with him, because he kind of made these promises to me and then he was too busy. I basically didn't stay in touch with him. And he mentioned some other people he was going to introduce me to, some very supernatural people that he knew, and that didn't happen either. So I was, instead of getting upset and disappointed about it, I just thought, all right, well, I guess it's not going to happen with this guy. I didn't know where to turn. And then lo and behold, 3 days later, this person falls into my life.
And you'd already had the 30 minutes that changed your life. So like you said,
what more am I looking for?
Thrilled by that. Exactly.
But how do I help? How do I train, learn, all that kind of stuff? And 3 days later, I meet somebody else who helped me with that. And this person I met through I was doing some other healing modalities to heal from Lyme disease that were much more physically based. And then in that session, in one of these sessions, I was doing these sound healings. I mentioned that the situation with this other healer. And as I did that, it was like the revealing of that. We were in an office, okay? So we were in this very clinical surrounding. We were not talking about supernatural stuff. So when I mentioned this, the temperature of the room changed. And I realized, she and I had past lives before, and that there was a different kind of dynamic like I've never experienced before with a person, where it was definitely supernatural, because the temperature of the room went up. She had the same experience. And she said, I have to tell you something. Like, I'd been there the week before to make what's called a voice print, where you talk into a microphone and then they analyze your voice and they can actually tell you things that are in your body, diseases you might have, so forth. Very fascinating.
Really? So that is fascinating. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's called bioacoustics. So there's other modalities where they do the same kind of thing. So, this was something that, anyway, it goes into a longer story of another psychic told me about this person. So it's all these chain reactions start happening in the same week practically. So again, I mentioned it in my book. So check out The Gratitude Curve if you want to know more of the details. But anyway, the thing that was so fascinating about this, as this moment occurred where we had this physical experience where the temperature of the room went up and just our heart chakras opened up, it was like, oh, wow, it's you. I don't know who you are, but you figure in big in my past lives or something. She said, I need to tell you something. And I don't say this to anyone because, we work in an office. It's very clinical and we're very serious and scientific, but your higher self showed up last week. Like, she basically said, when I opened my eyes in the middle of my sleep, something woke me up. I saw your face. I saw your energy body. Your higher self was asking for healing. And I said, what? that's pretty wild. And then she started helping me with this. And And she's one of these people who, she taught me how to do the stuff by throwing me in the water, throwing me in the water to teach me how to swim, more or less, which was just exactly what I needed. But so in other words, we'd have these phone conversations and she would say, okay, my uncle has cancer. I'm going to be doing a remote healing on him tonight. So can you join us at 10 o'clock? And I would say, well, what do you mean? She would give very little information, like just, imagine his face. I'm like, what face? Can you send me a photograph? No, you're just gonna, his name is, Nicholas. So just, start calling for Nicholas in your mind, you'll start to see him after a while. I'm like, what? How do you know I can do this? She said, I see what you're all about. She basically said, she said things to me that just bounced right off my brain. Like, you're better at this than me, or things like that. That just made absolutely no sense because
at the time,
obviously, yeah, because she was having deeply clairvoyant, interactions every day and being kind of nonchalant about them, just like, in fact, whenever I would have a big moment, I would say it to her and she would just get disgusted with me. Like, this is the way it is. Why are you so, excited by this? This is life. This is the life that you've chosen. Realize it. I'm like, okay. Well, anyway, I had had a dream about a week later, where one of my relatives who had been remotely released by another psychic showed up in my dream. I felt bad from the dream. It felt like a nightmare. There was fear involved. And I thought, he's come back. And so I called her. And I was at work. So I had an office where I had a door so I could shut the door and people outside wouldn't hear this crazy talk of, I had a dream about, my grandfather's dead. I think he's attached to me again. Not many people would understand that or they would probably call the psych ward. So I called her up and I said, hey, listen, there's I think, my grandfather's back. I don't feel good about it. Can you see if he's around? And as we're on the phone, she says, oh yeah, he's around. He's attached to you by 2 cords, one on your back and one on your temple. I said, okay, can you get him off of me? She said, no. Why? You have to do it. Okay. So I'm at work. It's like 2 p.m. I'm not going to be doing this anytime soon. I'm going to go home and eat dinner and maybe meditate afterwards or something and try to figure out how to do this. And she told me how to do it. She said, you're going to remove it. You imagine any kind of device, scissors, buzzsaw, whatever you imagine will happen. It'll be real in the astral world. You'll cut these cords and then realize that there's these wounds that will be where the cord's attached. So you circle pink light around it until it heals, and then give it some extra love energy to fortify it so it's not a weak spot anymore. She told me all these things. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm writing them down. Like, oh, okay, all right, what else do I do? And that was it. She said, all right, good luck.
Go get them, Greg.
Right. So here I am. I'm like, I'm freaked out that this, being is attached to me again, specifically, on my temple and my back. And what the heck what am I going to do for the next few hours? So as I was sitting there after I hung up the call, I felt like this being was started to rattle my cage. I started feeling disoriented. I started feeling wonky, like I couldn't stand up. I thought, I'm not going to be able to wait until tonight. I'm going to have to do this now in my office.
Because you were now consciously aware of it.
Yeah. So I opened my door. I went to the water cooler, kind of did walked around the cube farm area to make sure, the coast was clear for me to do this. At first I thought I'm going to turn the light off and like get in lotus position. And I thought that's not going to work. If somebody just bursts into my office, sees that the light is off, turns it on, and I'm in full lotus, that's too much for this corporate environment. So I thought, what else can I do? I just put my hands over my eyes and closed them. And I instantly was there. And I saw, I knew it was my grandfather. It didn't look so much like he looked in in the physical form, but so it was his energy body. And I could see these cords attached to him. And at first I thought, I'm going to give this guy love. We had not a great relationship in the physical form. And as my friend had told me, it was a chance to get rid of some karma from other lives that we've had. And he fell down on the job. According to her, I was allowing him to be above me in terms of like, he was my grandfather and he was supposed to show me love, and he didn't do that. So I don't know, if he was frustrated or mad about that, or thought I was trying to get payback, which I wasn't. Whatever the case, he was messing with me. And so I sent him love, and in return, I got these weird green bubbles that went over to me and started collecting around my feet. I thought, what is this? At first I thought, oh, good, he's giving me something back. And I looked down, like, no, this is not good stuff. So it made me angry. And I ripped off the one, or maybe the one off my temple. I didn't do any gentle stuff. I instantly became like this warrior. I ripped this thing off, and I felt my body. I looked down, I could see I was on fire, and that my arms had red scales. And instantly I realized I was a 40-foot red dragon. Okay.
Went for the full power, went for the full drama there.
And I had the distinct feeling like this was happening without my knowledge and mental control from this lifetime. It was like my higher self kicking in, which is a strange experience, because things were happening and I wasn't entirely feeling in control over them. I was kind of witnessing them. And plus my experience with dragons and reptilians was like, that's kind of a negative being. Am I evil, to my down in my core? And I didn't feel that, but I felt like, and I still to this day, I'm not entirely sure. I think I must have lived a life as literally a red dragon, where part of my defense mechanism was to be on fire. My skin was on fire. But as I assumed the form of this red dragon, I looked at my grandfather, and he was horizontal, like in a gale force wind, still attached to me. I forgot about the cord on my back. So, flapping in the breeze, and I bridled my anger because I thought I'm going to destroy his consciousness, forever. I didn't think that was possible, but I had a feeling like I might be able to do that. And I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. And, pulled the cord off, sent him away, told him to never come back or never bother any of my spiritual family again, and sent him on his way. And then I came back to earth, took my hand off my eyes, and just thought, what just happened? And I just happened to check my email, and I basically got a congratulatory email from my friend. She watched the whole thing.
Wow. Do you feel like it's possible the two of you were like warring dragons and there was some residual energy from that?
I didn't get the feeling like he had been a dragon.
Okay. Okay.
Because he was afraid of me when I assumed that form.
Okay.
So I think if he would have been able to assume that form, he would have to kind of battle me. But he was terrified. That was obvious. So yeah, still trying to piece some of that together, because I have assumed the form one other time during a meditation, and it was out of kind of like a defensive scenario. But yeah, that was a wild experience. That was again corroborated by somebody else who witnessed it on the astral plane. So
that's so wonderful when we do have that corroboration. I think our guides work very hard to have those happen for us, particularly in the beginning, because our consciousness is just raising so much and just shifting, and we're also working to better integrate our subconscious with our conscious, with our superconscious, our primal self with our higher self. There's just we are the rabbit hole
Right.
as we work to know ourselves and put ourselves together in the best possible way so that we can return to love and be love and just be sharing that with others. So I feel so grateful for getting that sort of corroboration.
Yes. Yes. Well, that's it, right?
All right. Yes. So please join us June 13th for the next podcast. And Greg, would you like to go one more time on this topic? I feel like we've got three more to round it out, or you and I can talk offline.
Let's talk offline.
Please, okay, please join us at our website, which is wakingupspiritually.com, and you can find all the past broadcasts there. Check out the last one in particular, because we did our 1 year anniversary 2 weeks ago, and that was a recap of the first year, the first 24 programs. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, and I've got the link here for you, or you can search for it, as Greg said, for Waking Up Spiritually on YouTube, but here is the actual link. And please rate and review us on Apple iTunes. I think we've got about 9 or 10 programs up there. We can bring up roughly 3 a month. So we're getting them caught up. And thank you to Greg for doing all that technology piece. And you can visit Greg at Gregg, Kirk.com, and highly recommend his half-hour phone sessions. They are amazing. I've had many of them with him. They are just enlightening, uplifting. I have definitely learned things, released pain, cleaned up problems. So thank you, Greg, for those wonderful sessions. And you can request a complimentary 15-minute phone appointment with me via my website, which is wendyrosewilliams.com. And there's a contact me tab is the final tab. And I'd love to hear how may I be of service to you as we work to manage those past lives. It can also be scenes from earlier in this lifetime. Some clients go to a parallel life that's happening now, which is super interesting. And some go to a future life potentiality, either in this lifetime or a true future life where you've dropped your body in between. And lots of people are experiencing past life recall on other planets and other dimensions. So just here to help hold that space for you and help you with that sort of work. So thank you for being here.
And I just want to return the favor, Wendy. The session that I had with you that I actually mentioned in my book was transformative, helped me make sense of, I think it was 4 past lives came through all at once. So do yourself a favor if you have that itch that I had of, this just kind of unknowing, like I knew I had other lives, different experiences I was having in this lifetime, things that would come up on TV or readings or just any subjects. Certain subjects, mine particularly, were around Jesus and the Essenes, the team of people, the commune that helped raise him. That was just so fascinating to me for a reason I couldn't explain. And then, we did a session, Wendy and I did a session, and lo and behold, yes, I had a lifetime during that, that when Jesus was alive. So, do yourself a favor if you're having those, especially if you're having those feelings of you can't make sense of why you're having these particular yens or subjects, parts of the world. It helps make sense of all that.
Wonderful. So thank you, everybody. We appreciate you being here and look forward to seeing you next time. And always love to hear your topic ideas. Just let us know how you're doing. Let us know how we can best be of service.
Well, actually, before we sign off, I actually want to do a quick check on Facebook.
Oh, yes. Good point.
Questions?
Let's check exactly if we've got any live questions. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Feedback on the stories. Okay, so Shira, I believe is how you pronounce her name, Shira, says, my elf guy said my physical pain is karma. Is there any way to stop this karma payment? It's been 10 years and getting too much to bear. I'm praying hard. It sounds like Shira is having some, she feels karmic payment, and it's coming out in the form of, sounds like chronic pain. Wendy, do you have any?
Greg, why don't you take that one? Because Shira and I already did a session together. So let's bring a fresh perspective in on that, if you don't mind.
Okay. Well, yes, pain, any negative experiences can be karma. They can be. Doesn't mean that they necessarily are. So if it is a karma payment, yeah, that's something that can be worked on in an energy session, or, well, Wendy, it sounds like you've been working with Shira. Shira, I would continue working with Wendy. If you would like to try something different, you can certainly contact me. Karma payment is something that can be unwound during something like an energy session. But between the two of us, I'm sure Wendy or I can help you get to the bottom of it. It's hard to say just only hearing that amount of information, because many things can be karma payment, that manifests into things that we call undesirable, but it doesn't mean you need to hold on to it. You can burn your karma or unwind it during something like an energy session. So yes, hopefully that helps. I don't know if we answered it.
Yes, thank you for that comment, that question. It's an important one.
It is. So we can continue to take that conversation up on the Facebook page in the comments area. But thank you, Shira, for reaching out about that. And we want to encourage everyone else to also ask questions, but we would love to hear your topic ideas. And because we've been doing this for a year now, twice a month. We've ripped through quite a few topics, so we're always open to hearing more. So anyway, we'll see you in 2 weeks, or actually June 12th, I think you said, Wendy. And
June 13th.
June 13th, and we'll see you then. Check us out on all, on the podcast, YouTube, and wakingupspiritually.com. We'll see you soon, and have a great rest of your weekend. Okay.
Bye now. Thank you.